Okay, so today we're doing something kind of different on this deep dive.
Mm-hmm.
Usually we have like a book or an article or a movie or something like that.
Right.
But today we're actually diving into your words. We're
Wow.
looking at some excerpts that you sent to us from Burn After Writing.
Oh, that's a good one.
It is, right?
Yeah.
Have you used that one?
I actually have. I'm a big fan of journaling in general.
Yeah.
And I think burn after writing just adds this really interesting element to it.
It does.
The idea that you're going to write these things down, be totally honest,
Yeah.
and then you get to just like let go.
Yeah, and it's almost like it gives you permission to be more honest because it's not like a permanent record.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like you get to say what you need to say and then poof,
Yeah.
it's gone.
Yeah. And for people who haven't used it, it's basically a journal full of these like prompts and questions
Mm-hmm.
that really make you think about all sorts of things like,
Yeah.
your hopes and dreams and fears and, all that good stuff.
All the juicy stuff.
Exactly.
The stuff that you don't always want to share with the world.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's so important to explore.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was looking through what you sent to us, and I got to say, you were pretty brave
Oh, yeah.
to share some of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really cool to see like how you were using the prompts
Yeah.
and what kind of things you're thinking about.
Yeah. 'Cause, everybody approaches those prompts in a different way, right?
Right, exactly.
So it's always fascinating to see what other people are focusing on.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting too because, like you were saying, it's such a personal thing.
Mm.
But I actually found a lot of like common threads
Right.
in what you wrote that
Right.
I think a lot of people probably relate to.
Like what kind of things?
Well, one of the things that really stood out to me was this whole idea of like
Mm.
pursuing your goals, but also dealing with self-doubt.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Big time.
like you wrote about wanting to, achieve this specific goal. And
It was a good one.
it was a good one. Yeah.
Mm.
And I was like, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Like I could totally see that happening for you.
Right.
But then you also talked about this like fear
Oh,
of
wow.
this particular obstacle that you thought might get in your way.
Yeah, that's always tricky.
Right.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really cool how honest you were about that. Like
Yeah.
you didn't shy away from it.
Mm-hmm.
You're just like, yeah, this is what I'm afraid of.
Right.
And I think that takes a lot of courage
It does.
to like admit that even to yourself.
Especially to yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it's easier to pretend those fears don't exist, right?
You're totally.
But when you actually like write them down and acknowledge them,
Yeah.
that's when you can start to work through them.
That's when you can start to like face them
Yeah.
head on.
Exactly.
Yeah. And what I thought was really interesting about what you wrote,
Hmm.
that it seemed like you were almost like at war with yourself
Oh,
a
interesting.
little bit,
Yeah.
Like on the one hand, you had this like really strong desire to achieve this goal.
Mhm.
But then on the other hand, you had this like fear that was holding you back.
Right, like two sides of the same coin.
Exactly.
Yeah, I see that a lot actually.
Really?
In my work, people come to me with these amazing goals and dreams,
Yeah.
but then they're so afraid to go after them.
Right.
And it's almost like they sabotage themselves before they even start.
It's like they don't believe they deserve it or something.
Yeah, or they're afraid of what might happen if they actually succeed.
That's interesting.
Like what if their life changes too much?
Yeah.
Or what if they disappoint people?
Right.
There's all sorts of fears that can come up.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to remember that those fears are normal.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to feel them,
Yeah.
but we don't have to let them control us.
Right.
It's about finding ways to manage those fears.
Yeah.
And keep moving forward.
So what are some of the things that you tell people?
Well, one thing that I find really helpful
Yeah.
is this idea of cognitive reframing.
Cognitive reframing.
Have you heard of that?
I feel like I have, but remind me.
So basically, it's about taking those negative thoughts that are
Right.
holding you back
Yeah.
and consciously choosing to challenge them.
Oh, okay.
So like in your case, you mentioned this fear of this obstacle.
Right.
Instead of just letting that fear take over,
Mm-hmm.
you could ask yourself, okay, what evidence do I actually have that this is going to happen?
That's a good question.
Right. Like, is it based on facts or is it just, my imagination running wild?
Right. Right.
And then you can also ask yourself, okay, what would happen if I actually believed in myself?
Ooh,
What if I believe that I could overcome this obstacle?
Yeah, that's powerful.
Right. It's about shifting your perspective
Mm-hmm.
from fear and doubt to possibility and empowerment.
I love that.
Yeah.
And it makes me think about like
Hmm.
the whole burn after writing thing.
Right.
Like you're writing these things down, you're getting them out of your head,
Yeah.
you're acknowledging them,
Hmm.
and then you're literally like releasing them by
Exactly.
burning the
That's like a
pages.
ritual. Right.
It is.
Yeah.
It's like a symbolic way of saying, okay, I'm done with you, fear.
Exactly.
I'm moving on.
Yeah. I'm not going to let you control me anymore.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so another thing that you wrote about that I thought was really interesting
Okay. Let's hear it.
was making decisions,
Oh, yeah.
like difficult decisions.
Those are always tough.
Right.
Yeah.
And specifically, you were talking about this one decision that you were wrestling with.
Yeah.
And you said, and I'm going to quote you on this.
Okay.
You said, I feel like I'm being pulled in two different directions.
Oh, I know that feeling.
Right. Like how many times have we all felt that?
Right. Like you want to go one way.
Yeah.
But then there's this other part of you that's like, wait, but what about this?
Exactly. And it's like your head is telling you one thing,
Mm-hmm.
but your heart is telling you something else.
Yeah. Or your gut is telling you something completely different.
Right. And it's like, who do you listen to?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is. So like from your perspective,
Yeah.
how do you help people navigate that kind of thing?
Well, the first thing I always say is that there's no right or wrong answer.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, some decisions have bigger consequences than others,
Right.
but ultimately, it's about figuring out what's best for you
Mm.
in that moment.
Right.
And sometimes that means going with your gut,
Yeah.
even if it doesn't make sense logically.
Right.
And sometimes it means taking a step back and really thinking things through.
So it's not always about logic then.
Not always. Sometimes it's about intuition.
Okay.
Sometimes it's about your values,
Mhm.
like what's most important to you.
Right.
And sometimes it's just about trust in yourself.
Trust in yourself?
Yeah, like deep down, you know what you need to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just a matter of listening to that inner voice.
And maybe that's where burn after writing comes in handy again.
Oh, how so?
Well, because it gives you a space to like
Yeah.
work through all those different thoughts and feelings
Mm-hmm.
without judgment.
Right.
You can just like brain dump everything onto the page.
Get it all out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then once it's out there,
Mm-hmm.
you can kind of like look at it more objectively,
Oh, interesting.
you know,
Yeah.
and then decide what you want to do with it.
And then you get to burn it,
And then you get to burn it.
which is so symbolic.
It is. It's like you're saying, okay,
Yeah.
I've considered all the angles.
Mhm.
I've made my decision.
Yeah.
And now I'm moving on
I love that.
without any regrets.
Yeah, without any baggage.
It's
Yeah.
like a clean slate.
So I'm curious, what about you?
What about me?
Have you ever had one of those decisions
All the time.
where you're just like, I don't know what to do?
Yeah, I mean, I'm human, right?
Yeah.
I go through the same struggles as everyone else.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Like, we're all in this together.
Yeah.
We're all just trying to figure things out.
And do the best we can.
Exactly.
So I have one more question for you.
Okay, hit me.
And then I want to throw it out to our listeners too.
Okay, sounds good.
So you wrote about something else in your entries
Yeah.
that I thought was really powerful,
What's that?
and that was forgiveness.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's a big one.
it is.
Yeah.
And specifically, you were talking about forgiving yourself
Mm-hmm.
for past mistakes.
Right.
And you said, and again, I'm going to quote you here.
Okay.
You said, I'm so hard on myself sometimes.
Oh, yeah. I think we all are.
Right.
It's like we have this inner critic
Yeah.
that's constantly telling us we're not good enough,
Yeah, that we messed up.
that we should have done things differently.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's tough.
And, I was thinking about that
Mm.
and how, like,
Yeah.
burning those entries
Right.
where you wrote about those regrets
Yeah.
could almost be like a way of
Yeah.
symbolically releasing that guilt.
I think that's a beautiful way to look at it.
Yeah.
It's like you're acknowledging the past,
Mm-hmm.
you're learning from it,
Yeah.
and then you're choosing to move on.
Moving on.
Yeah, with a lighter heart.
I love that.
Yeah.
So to our listeners out there,
Mm-hmm.
if you're thinking about picking up burn after writing,
Yeah.
what's the one question
Ooh,
that you'd be most curious to explore?
that's a good question.
Right.
Yeah.
And don't feel like you have to burn it
Right.
if you don't want to.
It's your journal.
Yeah, it's your journey.
Do what feels right for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But just allow yourself to be honest
And to really like delve into those deeper parts of yourself.
and see what you discover.
Yeah, see what you discover.
It's an amazing process.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive today.
Thanks for having me.
It was awesome.
Yeah, this was fun.
And all of you out there listening,
Mm-hmm.
keep exploring
Keep digging deep.
and keep burning.
Or not burning, whatever you prefer.
Exactly, whatever feels right.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Bye.